Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this special Halloween edition of the Cover One Buffalo podcast. We are excited tonight to have some special guests on the line. Going to be talking about the Bills Bears matchup coming in this weekend. We have a special guest back who's been off and on for a little while from the folks that you know here. We have Aaron Quinn. Welcome in for the night. How things going, Aaron?
Dude, I'm doing great. I finally got a break from juggling two kids around because you guys are going on a little later tonight. And I'm happy because Bears week is a big week for me. It happens once every 4 years. My brother is a big Bears fan. He's coming up for this game. Last time he and I were in Buffalo together, I think it was 2002, 2003. Drew Bledsoe, overtime game, hits Travis Henry with a screen pass, takes it to the house. I walked out of Ralph Wilson at the time, Ralph Wilson Stadium, a winner. So I'm hoping that some of that luck rubs off again as he comes up here this weekend. Got a lot of Bears followers from the guys here at the bar room and stuff. So it's always a fun week for me when it does happen every 4 years.
Awesome. On the other end of things, we have a special guest coming in. We have Shayne Marsaw coming in from Bears 100 Proof on the Bears Barroom Network. They drop their podcast every Wednesday morning. Excited to have a special guest in here. Shayne, tell the people a little bit about yourself and what they can see from your work.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. Excited to be with you guys. I know Aaron a little bit, kind of through his brother Diddy over at the Bears Barroom. We have a lot of fun over there. We pump out a lot of content every week, and it's been a real big year for us. We got Chicago radio legend Mike North signed on and is with us, and he's making people a lot of money with his betting lines and betting the handicaps over there at the bar room. So
a man after my own heart.
Yeah, so you better follow along. We always say he bets jelly beans. So if you want to win some jelly beans, you better follow Mike North, and he's gonna win you some money over at the bar room. He's on a real impressive streak. He started off his year 18-1-1, and he had a little rough week last week. But the guy knows what he's doing. It's real impressive. We all know how hard it is to bet the lines, and Mike North really knows what he's doing there. So.
Yeah, that's a crazy run. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty impressive. He's a great guy, super knowledgeable, and see my cat jumping across behind me. Sorry about that. But no, we have a lot of fun over at the bar room.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go through a couple things here tonight. Going to talk about Bills Bears, going to see what we can expect. But why don't we start out just kind of stepping back a little bit, and we'll go to both Aaron and Shayne here and figure out, we're at the halfway point. We're halfway through the season, depending on bye weeks. Compared to what your preseason expectations were, where are the Bears compared to where you kind of felt they would be?
Well, the biggest thing with the Bears, everything was kind of settled. I think everybody was kind of expecting maybe a good season would be 7-9, 8-8, and then we all woke up on September 1st, 2018, and boom, Khalil Mack is sitting under our Christmas trees a little bit early. That definitely ramped up the expectations in Chicago and with every Bears fan that I know, and their defense. They were a top 10 defense pre-Khalil Mack. Yeah. They added him to the fold. They were leading the league in sacks. He has hurt his ankle, so that slowed him down. He did sit out the previous game that we just played against the Jets, so that hurt. And I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, to see him sit out against Buffalo, because they have a stretch after Buffalo where they're going to be playing 3 division games within 12 days. And if you want to make a run at the playoffs, you guys know just as well as I do, you have to make hay within your division. So the expectations have definitely risen. I know a lot of people outside of Chicago, and especially within Chicago, like to trash Mitch Trubisky for whatever reason. A guy, learning a new offense, learning a whole bunch of new players, but he's had his bumps along the way, as you're going to with a rookie quarterback, but he's has not went by a game where he hasn't made a wow play and then showing exactly what you want to see. He's making steps each and every week. And at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want. NFL in 2018 is all about quarterback play. If you don't have the quarterback, not to throw you guys under the bus a little bit, but you guys are living proof of that right now with Josh Allen being out. When you're bringing in Matt Barkley, that's not a real great sign, if you know what I mean. I mean, we literally lived through that in Chicago.
Oh, so, you're familiar with his handiwork.
Oh, yeah. Very, very much so.
I do want to ask you one thing, because when you guys were looking for a coach, I really thought Nagy was a great fit before he became the name. And some of the guys on the Bears Barroom and some of your followers said, no, we want this guy. I thought Nagy was a great fit, and then I thought what you guys brought in to build up that offense around Mitch Trubisky was a great fit. I know there was a little bit of a slow start with that offense, and Nagy maybe trying to do too much. How is he settling in kind of halfway through his first season as a head coach? What are you seeing? Are you guys happy with him? Have things calmed down over there?
Yeah, it's been hit and miss. I think to refer back to the expectations, I know a lot of Bears fans don't want to hear this, because technically they're still in contention. I mean, we see Green Bay make a trade, trading out Ha and Montgomery. You see Detroit shipping off Golden Tate, and that perks up the ears. Like, are they getting ready to fall back, and Chicago can make a run here? But Nagy, we all know that it's going to take time. I mean, in Andy Reid offense, you heard Alex Smith said he didn't have everything figured out until year 5 in that offense. The big thing in Chicago has been centered around the running game. People don't think that Jordan Howard is a fit in the offense, and he absolutely is. He's just not getting enough. He's not getting enough carries. He's a 238-pound tailback, and he's not a guy that's going to give you 10 or 12 carries and pop up 125 yards. He's a guy that you're going to want to destroy defenses with in the fourth quarter. You saw a little bit of that versus the Jets when he popped off a 24-yard run in the 4-minute drill. But it's, Chicago has went through all of this, even going back to Ryan Pace. It's a lot of young guys learning on the job, and Matt Nagy is no different. He's had some head-scratching moves. I mean, just with personnel, how he's deployed people. But it's a live and learn type process. And to get back to the point that I was trying to make with fans maybe not wanting to hear it, I think at the end of the day, if you were to give Chicago a truth serum, even though they are in contention right now, I think this is all about 2019 for Chicago. I think that's when they're within Hallis Hall. I think that's when they really expect to burst, to kick in the door and say, we're here and we're going to contend. And I think right now I think Nagy, especially with Mitch in this passing game, doing so much, I think he's working out everything that he can work out with that in mind. And with them happen to be in contention right now, that's really, icing on top of the cake.
I think it's interesting the way you laid that out is so similar to what we're hoping. I think the Bills get to next year. You look at where Trubisky was last year. I think you had a lot of Bears fans concerned, hey, are we giving him the weapons to even find out if he is any good? How are we going to know when he's throwing, when I think you had a stretch where Cam Meredith was your best receiver, and then you lost him. And then, going down that path, it's not unsimilar to where we're at now. And probably a similar number of snaps that you got from Trubisky that we're going to have with Allen. So I think we're hoping to get to that point next year where the same idea, we're going to add in a bunch of pieces. We're going to bring in those elements to then reinforce the group around him and hope that we can then get going the right direction. But then we're going to be looking at 2020 as the real year to kick in the door. So I think we're hoping that we're in a similar trajectory. And I don't know that means we're going to trade for our version of Khalil Mack, but going that direction of the big investment, bringing it in and building it. And I think that we're hopeful that we see a similar trend.
Yeah, and one thing that you have to keep in mind with all of this, it's not just personnel based. A lot of this is ownership and the front office. You have to, Chicago, for so many years, everybody would say that the McCaskies were so cheap, they'd throw around nickels like manhole covers. That's not the case anymore. I mean, you see the multi-million-dollar expansion within Hallis Hall to attract, help attract free agents. and they made a huge commitment in the offseason to bring in not aging veterans, but Allen Robinson. Yes, he had a torn ACL, but they went out and they made that commitment to him. Taylor Gabriel, they gave a bunch of money to Trey Burton. These are all guys that are making an impact this year. After they spent all that money, then they turned around and they invested 2 future first-round draft picks and record-setting deal to Khalil Mack. So ownership's got to be willing to put that money forward. And it's all, you guys know how it goes. It's all a huge piece of the puzzle where it all comes together, and it's got to all center around your quarterback. Every single move has to center around that quarterback.
So we've been having in the Bills Twitter universe, I'm sure you follow me, I'm sure you've seen quite a bit of it. There's a lot of infighting between Bills fans about the direction. It's hard right now, and you guys have been through that where things get hard. You don't really understand some of the personnel decisions. I know Pace was kind of falling out of favor quickly with a lot of Bears fans because the decisions didn't make sense at the time, except for the people that could see the long-term vision. It's starting to make sense for you guys now. Can you give us and the Bills fans listening kind of any advice on how to get through these possibly 2-14 type seasons, knowing that maybe something better is coming?
Yeah, it's the dreaded P word, patience. And there's, Cleveland, got to have patience. Buffalo, got to have patience. Chicago, you got to have patience. That's the hardest thing. Fan is short for what? Fanatic. We're 3 guys here talking about the Chicago Bears and the Buffalo Bills on YouTube Live because we love the team, and we're not getting rich by talking about this, but we love what we do. And the biggest thing is you have to have the direction. I was really surprised. I've always been a Shady McCoy fan back to his Pitt days, but Shady McCoy is not going to be a Buffalo Bill when you guys are around in 2020 making your run. I'm not sure, maybe this will piss off Bills fans. You get what you can get. It's, you get as many draft picks as possible. And like I said, you get that commitment, the financial commitment from ownership that they're going to go after these guys. You don't want to bring in a 32-year-old player signing his last long-term contract. You want to get young guys with upside and guys that are going to be surrounding Josh Allen, not for a year. You want guys surrounding Josh Allen for 3-4 years, because everything in the NFL is all about consistency. The offensive line, I know you guys have some issues there. You have to know what the guy next to you is doing without even speaking to him. And if you have constant turnover there, it's going to make it tough. And right now you guys have constant turnover at the quarterback position, and it makes it even worse. But what is the silver lining? You have cap room. I think you guys have 10 draft picks for 2019. So that is your upside right there. And you got to hit in the draft. I mean, that is what it's all about. You have to make your hay. Don't just settle on saying, all right, we got 10 draft picks, we're going to bring in 10 players. You have to manipulate the draft, focus on a player. If he's the fit and he's a guy that's going to make an impact, you have that draft ammunition to go get him. You can always move around in the draft. The cap and free agency is fluid. You can always get more money. The same thing with draft picks. If you need to go move up and down the draft boards, you guys did it in the first round last year. You have to do that. Focus on the guys that you want and go get them. That's where the commitment from ownership comes in.
Yeah, I think, like you said, the Bills showed a willingness to do that, not only with Josh Allen, but also moving up again for Tremaine Edmonds. Yep. I think the Bears and the Bills walked away with my 2 top wish list items on defense between Roquan Smith and Tremaine Edmonds, and being able to keep that eye towards the future. I think you touched on a point that was a very hotly debated topic going into yesterday, was how much and how aggressive should the Bills be as sellers? Should they move pieces no matter what? Because, hey, you just have to get something for them, or do they try to hold firm on what they think their price is? There's a couple of things that I think Aaron and I both would have liked to have seen Kelvin Benjamin move no matter what. But
Sure.
I think LaShawn McCoy was someone that I was okay with them having a price on, because he is under contract next year. He is still a piece of that offense when we have no other NFL caliber playmakers. So having someone there who actually can make some semblance of a difference, even though he's not going to realistically be there in 2020, or won't be the same player that he is if he does come back again. I would have been okay if they got, say, a 4th round pick, but a player like that, if it's, hey, we'll give you a 2020 6th rounder, I guess I'd rather just hold on to him and get the value on the field. So I respect the fact that being held firm on that. I would have liked to have seen a move. I guess Terrell Pryor probably is our move per se, that they brought in someone who's going to add in a little bit. And when you're running out there and hoping Andre Holmes and Cam Phillips make catches, Terrell Pryor actually is a player. But let's jump into a little bit on the matchup itself this week. And we'll start on the more exciting side of the ball, which I think is the side where you have some optimism and still reading the tea leaves on Chicago side versus the strength that the Bills have. What are you thinking that the Bears are going to try to do against this Buffalo Bills defense, where we've seen some ebb and flow, more good than bad, but still some bad? You saw that, that Ravens game, that Colts game. Then you see them, hold the Packers to only a one offensive touchdown. You see him hold the Patriots to only one offensive touchdown. You see him shut down the Vikings. You see him hold the Titans without a touchdown. What do you think that Nagy and Trubisky are going to try to put together against this defense to put them into a positive position?
It's always going to be an aggressive game plan in Chicago. I mean, whenever Nagy is up talking about the offense, it's all he is not afraid of Mitch making mistakes. This, what I was telling you guys, I think this is more so about 2019. That's he wants him. I mean, a lot of the media within Chicago during training camp, Mitch was throwing some picks in practice, and they were they were in a total uproar about it, about these interceptions in practice. And it's practice. That's where you want to throw an interception. It's not that hard to figure out. You want him being aggressive, work out the kinks in practice. Matt Nagy is extremely aggressive. They want to go the quick game. You're going to see the Bears come out in a lot of shotgun. They're very, very rarely under center. That's been another bone of contention within Bears Barroom, why we're not seeing Mitch more under center, just to occasionally give a different look. They mic'd up Matt Nagy versus the Jets, and he was in Jordan Howard's ear. I promise you, I'm going to get you the ball. I'm going to get you the ball. We all know how this goes. You guys are in Buffalo and Chicago. When the weather starts to turn, you got to have that running game. Jordan Howard is a very underrated running back. He's not a flashy player that's going to pop off big runs like Shady and run around 5 or 6 guys and go down the sidelines. He's not that type. I think you're going to hopefully see him involved a little bit more, because he is that big. It's not saying that he's going to run over top of Buffalo, but it's you have to make them honor the running game. And one thing that we have not seen in Chicago in a long time is the playmakers on the outside. It used to be one guy. Alshon was there, Brandon Marshall was there for a couple of years. They have more weapons now. They have Trey Burton. Anthony Miller is starting to make huge strides. Taylor Gabriel has really, I know Aaron, your brother Diddy, was a huge Taylor Gabriel fan and was really happy when Chicago signed him. They've used him on the outside and hit him on a couple of deep passes. And I haven't even started talking about Tariq Cohen, who's really been the ultimate weapon for the Bears. You saw him take that 70-yard screen pass, totally uncovered. You don't see that very much, but you're going to see an aggressive approach. Kyle Long is out, so that's going to be an adjustment for them there. Eric Kush was out last week. They put in the rookie second-round draft pick James Daniels at left guard. So now you're going to see Kush, I assume, pop over to Kyle Long's spot. I mean, Mitch has not been sacked a whole bunch. Most of the sacks I think have been from Mitch just being a young quarterback and not having the processing speed. Yeah, but you're really going to see an aggressive approach, and it's really hard to pin down what they're going to do. We saw Trey Burton go out and have a big game against New England, and then he was non-existent versus the Jets. I think the Jets made a concerted effort to take him out of the game because he's been such a comfort zone for Mitch. But that's the way that this offense works. It's not Allen Robinson has the number one wide receiver money, but it doesn't mean that he's going to be the number one wide receiver focus for Matt Nagy every single week. It's very spread around. If you look at the numbers for all these guys, they're getting a bunch of balls spread around. Like Allen Robinson, he very well could sit out this week, along with Khalil Mack again to get them geared up for the division games. But at the end of the day, guys, this is all going to come back to number 10 for Chicago. You see the steps every single week, but if he's going to go back there and make a crazy interception in the end zone like he did that contributed to the loss in Miami, then they're going to have some problems, because there's a lot of fans out there that think that the Bears are just going to come to Buffalo and walk, and it's not going to happen. I mean, the Bears lost to Brock Osweiler.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a couple guys. I was totally in love with the Bears draft. Guys that I was looking for the Bills. The Bears ended up taking. I love Roquan Smith, and we'll talk about him at some point a little bit later. Anthony Miller, you mentioned, love him. Eric here is watching live in the chat, and he's our head honcho over here at Cover One. He says, you mentioned James Daniels, another guy that I really liked. Obviously, we lost Eric Wood and Richie Incognito. I would have loved for the Bills to snag a guy like that. What are you seeing at him? Because he looked really nice in college, looked like a guy that maybe had a little bit of development to do, but could probably come in and start right away on most teams. How's he looking over there for you guys in Chicago?
Well, he got his first start against the Jets because Cush was out with a neck injury. But the way that they had been doing it, they had really been doing a platoon at left guard with Cush and Daniels rotating. There was a lot of hoopla about the Bears bringing in Harry Heastan, the offensive line coach from Notre Dame, one of the best offensive line coaches at any level of football. Harry doesn't like to play rookies. He's been that way. He doesn't like to play true freshmen while he was at Notre Dame. He doesn't like to play rookies in the NFL. So I think that they found a creative way to not just let him sit on the bench. They were giving him series, and then they'd bring Cush back in. Then they'd put Daniels back in. They were rotating these two throughout the game. He's extremely athletic. Now, I know this sounds a little bit crazy, but this kid just turned 21 the end of September. And when you watch him, it's crazy to look at. He has the biggest ass that I have ever seen on a football player. And that's exactly what, you hear the term bubble butt when draft comes around. It's exactly what you want to see out of an offensive lineman. The kid is super
power.
Yeah, it is. It's all power. But he was very high on our draft boards over at Bears Barroom. Draft Dr. Phil Latoshan was a huge fan. I think he had him as his 19th rated player overall. And we were, he had some knee issues at Iowa, but those haven't creeped up within the NFL. And I think a lot of people really expected him to come in and maybe take over the center spot, because Cody Whitehair was having some snapping problems within the preseason, but he seems to have got those figured out. And Cody Whitehair overall has been the Bears, by my view, has been the Bears' best offensive lineman this year. And so I think what you'll see is James Daniels at left guard, Eric Cush slide in for Kyle Long at right guard. But the arrow is pointing way up for Daniels. He's very, very powerful and very athletic. And in the scheme that the Bears are running, where they like to get these, you saw those offensive linemen. You saw him actually duck out of the way on that screen pass to Tariq Cohen. James Daniels was down there, leading the charge. So you like to get these guys out in space and get them going down there. So yeah, he's done very well.
No, that's great. I mean, I think that it's something that we're curious to see, as again, we're hoping to see that investment from the Bills next year, and hoping to bring in some of those same positions, honestly, with what you guys have added. Flip into the other side of the field. Would you say that the Bills' offense is one of the better ones the Bears have prepared for, or the best offense they've prepared for?
Yeah, I think it's an all-timer. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. We went through that guy named Brady, but I mean, if we got it, we're preparing for Nate Peterman now.
I sadly, I think
looking like
is.
that.
Yeah.
It is.
But you know what? I'll be completely. I just brought this up. The Bears went to Miami and lost to Brock Osweiler, and this has been one of the biggest points of contention as a Bears fan. Is Vic Fangio is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. I think everybody kind of knows that. He doesn't like to attack. He likes to get pressure with 4, and that is much easier when you have a guy like Khalil Mack, but he is not an aggressive play caller. You may see him send – you guys will hear the name number 37, Bryce Callahan, this weekend. He's a guy that he likes to send. He's our nickelback, and he likes to send him on blitzes, and he could have had 2 sacks versus the Jets. He had 1, but he ended up whiffing on 1. He's 5'9", little guy, but it's we all want Vic to be more aggressive in Chicago, and he played right into a quarterback like Brock Osweiler's hands by sitting back in soft coverage and letting him have windows, and the Bears decided not to tackle in Miami. Eddie Jackson whiffed on a handful of tackles in Miami, and it seemed to spread like wildfire, and they ended up losing the game because of it. Because I think if you sit back in a soft zone all game long, these players are all young. They don't want to sit back in soft coverage. They want to attack. And it's just like it's like having Mitch out there making a big play. He goes out there and makes a big play. Everybody on the offense gets excited. It's the same way with defense. We'll see what happens with Khalil Mack. If he can come back, I'll be surprised if they do play him. They haven't been getting to the quarterback lately. And if I don't care who it is, this is still the NFL at the end of the day. And if the Bears aren't going to get after the quarterback and they're going to sit back in soft coverage, Nathan Peterman can make the NFL passes. I know you don't want to believe it, but
you can't make all the NFL passes.
Right,
you can make
right.
Some of it.
It's very polite of you to say so, though.
Yeah,
no, but what I'm saying is if you're going to sit back in soft coverage, if you're just throwing 3 and 5 yard outs, he can make that pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're not going to tackle, then a guy like Shady McCoy or Charles Clay or whomever can pop one.
Yeah.
Well, and like you saw, this past Monday night, they're getting more creative. There's more wildcat. There's more, creativity in what they're setting up there. Obviously, they're going to have to find a way to scheme around the limitations in Peterman's arm, and it's something that I think that a Bears defense, if I was Fangio and Nagy, I certainly would trust, just like you said, they came into the year already a top 10-ish defense that I'd like to think that I could hold the Bills offense back with the rest of that defense without, Khalil Mack, keep him ready for the stretch run. So I'd be surprised if we saw him outside of maybe you're trying to ease him back in 15 to 20 high leverage snaps, get him in there in the red zone 3rd and long just to kind of ease him back in. But I think it would be very interesting or surprising to see him for a full run of snaps.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, they have that little quirk in the schedule coming up where they have 3 division games in 12 days. Yeah, they play Detroit, Minnesota, and then Detroit again on Thanksgiving. And like I said, you got to make hay in your division if you're going to do anything. Chicago had Green Bay beat. I mean, that's the story of the NFL. Blowing that lead. Kyle Fuller has a pick 6, hit him literally in the chest, and he drops it. That's curtains right there. But that's the way that it goes. And,
these are the games I always talk about when the Bills are in the mediocre that they had been for 17 years before they made the playoffs last year. These are the kind of games for Chicago that you have to win if you want to be that playoff team. This is a team that you should be able to beat. And even, you talk about sitting back in the soft coverage and allowing a guy like this to beat you. To be fully honest, as a Bills fan, this Bills offense has beat themselves more than any defense has this year. So to come in here, I think you should be able to get away with not playing Khalil Mack. I think you still have a wrecking crew of a man in Akeem Hicks that just not a lot of people talk about, man. That guy plays he is a phenomenal football player, and you just don't hear his name enough. Why do you think that is? I mean, he puts it out there every week.
Yeah, he does. He puts it out there, but you guys know how this is. I mean, he's a guy that hasn't even made the NFL top 100 list. I mean, I know that's a sham of a list. He didn't make the Pro Bowl last year. I think what it comes down to, you brought up Roquan Smith, and I don't want to jump ahead because I know you want to talk about him later, but what it comes down to is it's fans, fair weather fans, people that don't pay as much as attention as we do. They want to see interceptions. They want to see sacks. And they're not putting up these big, huge numbers in that department. Like, one of the best players on the Chicago Bears defense is Eddie Goldman, their nose tackle. He's 24 years old, just got a great extension, and he's really the guy that makes the whole thing go on defense. And he's not a guy that's gonna go out there and give you 5 or 6 sacks. He's a guy that you're gonna watch the game and you're never gonna hear his name. But you know what? When you get out the all 22 and watch it, he's going to be a guy that dominates week in and week out. He's 6'4", 336 pounds, and he doesn't move, and he does create pressure. Same thing with Akeem Hicks. Akeem has been a little bit banged up. I think he's got a dinged shoulder, so I think that has slowed him down a little bit. He got ejected from the one game there in the first half, and that I think pissed him off a little bit, but you were talking about the Bears draft. Another guy that you're going to hear from this weekend is number 98, Bilal Nichols, defensive lineman from Delaware that they brought in the 5th round. Is really a kid that every single week is starting to flash and really make a name for himself. So Chicago did so far, looking back at the 2018 draft, Ryan Pace, it's a big testament to the guys that he brought in. And it doesn't matter if it's a guy in the first round like Roquan Smith or a guy down as far as the 5th round, 6th round. You know, Kylie Fitz is a pass rusher that made the roster. Javon Wims is a guy that they haven't even put on the field yet. Drafted him in the 7th round.
He flashed a lot in preseason.
He sure did. And to me, he should have made the 53, and he should be playing over Kevin White, who's, you know, everybody likes to call him a bust. You can't predict broken bones, and he's broken bones 3 years in a row, and they zapped him of the ability that, you know, made him special at West Virginia. It's a bad set of circumstances, but you got to get contributions from these young players that you're investing to, and for a lot of years Chicago didn't, and now they are, and they're guys that we think that are going to be around for a long time.
No, that's great. I think that, you know, hearing optimism from a fan base like Chicago and the direction that you guys have put together is really encouraging, because, again, I see a lot of parallels there. I think that a lot of Bills fans talk about, you know, LA with Goff, with Philadelphia with Wentz, even what Jacksonville built around and put around their system. But I actually think that the two most closely correlated to the Bills drive is Chicago around Trubisky and the order that you've put things together, and when you've brought in different parts. And I brought up when we played Mariota in Tennessee that I saw a lot of corollary there, and how they're kind of building that and using the draft and bringing in pieces around there. So I think that the Bills should pay a lot of attention to what the Bears are doing. They brought in a creative offensive mind. We're obviously hopeful that Brian Daboll is not necessarily showing everything that he has, or isn't able to get the players to execute because of the lack of some of the talent. We've seen some of the creativity that he has when he's able to get some things framed around there, but hopeful to see a lot of that take off in the coming years, and specifically in the next year when we add more of those pieces in.
Yeah, you bring up LA. A lot of people have made the correlation, like you said, with Chicago and the Rams and that jump. That's really not the blueprint that Chicago used. It was really Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You know, you brought up Carson Wentz. They made the move up to the top of the draft, you know, number 2 with Cleveland to bring him in. Ryan Pace took a lot of flack to moving up one spot. You know, nobody knows how this draft unfolds, but when you have a quarterback that you have deemed worthy of leading your franchise for the next 10 to 12 to 15 years, you don't take a chance. You know, do you think that the Saints would like to have Patrick Mahomes right now? Yeah. They lost out on him by one spot. You know, you think about it in those terms. So yeah, he gave up 2 threes and a 4 to move up one spot, but he secured his quarterback that he deemed. Is Mitch going to be the guy? He's showing signs. Who knows? Is he Patrick Mahomes? No. He's not Deshaun Watson either. Deshaun Watson's got his issues too. He's got 2 total knee reconstructions within the last 4.5 years. That's something that fans don't want to necessarily talk about, but that's a big deal, especially when you're a quarterback that, relies on your movement. But, if you look at the Philadelphia blueprint with, it really the same offense, Doug Peterson coming from Kansas City, Matt Nagy from Kansas City. They went out and the Philly made 2 big splashes at wide receiver in the free agent market with Alshon. And I'm blanking on the guy right now. They ended up trading him this past offseason. But, Chicago did the same thing with Taylor Gabriel and Allen Robinson. The blueprint is Philadelphia. And, the only difference is where I think Chicago made their biggest mistake was when they committed to knowing that Mitch was their guy. John Fox never should have been the coach. They wasted 16 games. He really made Mitch very, very gun shy. They didn't have the playmakers, but still, your quarterback's got to take his lumps out there. And John Fox, it was run, pass, run, pass, run, pass. And you have an offensive coordinator at the time in Dowell Loggins that literally went up on the podium and said, the defense dictates who I play on offense. That's why Tariq Cohen is not on the field for me. What?
That's crazy today.
Yeah, think about that.
You touched on it earlier. I think when you say about consistency, that's the one thing I'm hoping that we gain a little bit of a benefit from. You saw Fisher, kind of throw away Goff's first year. You talk about that with Fox and Trubisky. Although, McDermott and Bean and Dable and that entire structure, I'm hoping that's at least consistency for Allen, hearing the same message, learning the same playbook, understanding there. Obviously, I don't think Dable's, lighting the world on fire to get his head coaching job that he clearly has in mind. So I feel confident we're going to have him back next year, maybe the year after. So I think that we're going to gain some of that consistency, that at least you're able to build around that to do it and try to pull from there.
I wanted to make one point, because I've been trying to tell Bills fans this, because I always thought that it was very odd that I understand what you're saying. If Pace finds that guy that's his guy, you definitely do whatever you can to get him. But I agreed with you in the sense that John Fox shouldn't have been. If they knew John Fox wasn't the guy, he shouldn't have been there. And the Bills had a placeholder GM during that draft. And we're looking at quarterback. They liked Mitch Trubisky, actually. The owner liked him a lot. They liked Patrick Mahomes. And he gets linked to the Bills a lot. And I keep trying to tell Bills fans, I said, I don't think it's a good idea for a GM that's a placeholder GM to draft the quarterback of the future before you have a GM in place, because you run into those issues. And I think you guys had a little bit of it on the coaching side, where you really did have a wasted year with Mitch. And I thought that was a shame, the whole way, the Glennon thing. And then Mitch coming in, he had one game where he threw for like historical low amount of throws in a football game. And I think that kind of thing hurt him. I've been telling Diddy, my brother, because he's gotten kind of upset with Mitch's on and off play. And I said, come talk to me after 20 games.
Yeah,
let this kid get 20 games under his belt, and then come talk to me. We can talk about whether he's going to be good or not.
It's part of being a young quarterback. People make a lot. He had 13 starts in college, but Mitch played in 31 games in college. He almost threw as many career passes in college as Carson Wentz did. But people don't, they don't dive into the numbers very much. They just make big assumptions and say it's. Mitch Trubisky came into the worst possible scenario for him, unfortunately, last year with a team led by John Fox and coached up by Dowell Loggins. It was terrible. And one of the most underrated things within the NFL when you're talking about quarterbacks is, what does every single top quarterback in the NFL, not every one, but most of them, have consistency in structure around them, in the head coach. And you look at Ben Roethlisberger, you look at Aaron Rodgers, the guy like Cam Newton has had that same head coach there. Carson Wentz isn't switching head coaches every year. A lot of these guys, it's all about consistency, especially on offense. And you start having these guys have upheaval, and that's what has hurt Mitch. He had 16 games. Essentially, Nagy had to come in and say, you know what? Everything you learned last year, I want you just to throw out the window. Yeah. And that's a total waste. It's a total waste. We only get 16 of these games every year. And that whole season last year, yeah, he learned some things, but 75% of it, he had to just throw out the window.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that's the consistency we can keep. Like Greg had mentioned, I think a lot of people want Daboll fired because of how bad the offense is this year. I think people need to pump the brakes there, and we'll keep Daboll and let Allen at least get 20 games with this guy, so you can just kind of get a baseline of what we're looking at. Maybe he won't live up to his draft pick and the trade up for him, but at least we can get a baseline after that.
Well, I think you guys touched on it with the buildup, the Shayne, what you talked about going into it. I think the worst thing you can do nowadays is what the Cowboys have done with Dak Prescott. They middled it. They didn't bring any weapons. They didn't add anything around him because they weren't certain that he was the franchise guy. I have this argument with people who talk about, the game theory of, well, just keep drafting quarterbacks until you find the right one. Well, if you don't use that next draft pick to invest in something that's either going to protect or be a playmaker for the quarterback, you're simply ensuring that he's not going to make it. When you don't sign linemen and bring in and trade for a Taylor Gabriel, sign an Allen Robinson, sign a Trey Burton, when you don't put those things around it to give him a chance to succeed, you're simply assuring yourself that he won't. So I would much rather, hey, we're already married to Josh Allen. This is what it is. We're going to find out one way or the other whether he's going to be the franchise of our future. We have to give him a shot. So bring in the lineman, give me a first and second and third round pick that's a lineman and a receiver and a tight end. Sign me 2 linemen, sign me 2 receivers. Let's find out, because you gave him all the ammo and support and structure around him to be successful. And then you put all that around him and then he doesn't, then at least we know. Then at least we've made an informed decision that, hey, there's not this hanging out there to be like, well, we don't really know how he would have done with that around him. You have to jump both feet in, because then when you do find out, if you do hit like the Rams, like the Eagles, then all of a sudden you have that window of the rookie contract and you're able to take advantage of that in today's NFL, which is the most valuable thing in sports right now.
Or you end up looking like the Jaguars, right?
Yeah.
And holding on to Blake Bortles this long and never knowing if he was the guy. And you keep seeing little glimmers and he gets you, and then he falls apart and becomes Blake Bortles again.
Yeah, you see a lot. I mean, look at the New York Giants. You're up at the top of the draft. And not that Saquon Barkley is not a fabulous running back. I understand it. He's good. But when you are up there, when you are holding that bat up at the top of the draft, you have to go get your quarterback. You're not going to be up there a lot. Yes, you have to believe in them, but I mean, to me, it's a huge mistake. There was talk 2 years ago when the Bears were in the draft, Jamal Adams. The Bears just played the Jets. Jamal Adams came out and said himself, I thought I was going to be a Bear. It was pretty much given. On draft day, I was going to be a Bear. Ryan Pace knew he wasn't going to be a Bear. I mean, you saw Ryan Pace invest all that money in Mike Glennon as pretty much a smokescreen. He did not want people to know he didn't even call Mitch Trubisky on draft day to tell him, hey, we're taking you here. He never got a phone call. It was right up until the last moment. I mean, it's a high stakes game of poker, really. And you gotta get your guy. You guys believe in Josh Allen. Aaron, I think you and I had some talks, and Phil too. I think you weren't very excited about it at the time, but you gotta get your guy. I mean,
he's our guy now.
Yeah, he's your guy. But you know what? Where he didn't have. I mean, Tanner Gentry, who's on the Bears practice squad, was his biggest weapon at Wyoming. And he didn't have any weapons there. Of course, he was going to have his issues with the accuracy, but you can't ask for a better arm. You have a big, solid football player that can move. You got to see those traits. You center in on those traits. You have to believe in the kid off the field, and it all starts from there.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And he's our guy now. And I think Greg hit the nail on the head with get him the weapons and see what he can do. And if he doesn't, because we had Tyrod Taylor here for a few years, and that was highly contested as to whether or not he was a good quarterback. And a lot of the argument was The weapons that they did have weren't healthy all at the same time. So people would constantly say, well, he doesn't have the weapons to succeed. But then when he did have the weapons, he still didn't succeed. So eliminate the excuses, get as many weapons for these guys like you guys have done for Mitch Trubisky. I keep telling Diddy that, like, and I agree with you that it's about 2020. You've developed a young core of weapons. I don't think they're going to stop being aggressive and getting more and more players on this team.
No.
And so you give him all the tools he can handle. And then in 2020, if he's still not the guy, you did everything you could. The whole regime, the whole front office is behind that. And you know what? If you fail that way, I'm way happier fail that way than meddling in the 8-8, 7-9s of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. You saw the Bears way back in 2009 give up 2 firsts, a third, and Kyle Orton for Jay Cutler. And what was their answer to having a good defense? They thought Jay Cutler was the entire answer to everything, and they didn't do anything after that for him. They drafted a wide receiver in the 5th round, Johnny Knox. That in Devin Hester was his number 1 wideout. You make the investment in these quarterbacks. We at Bears Barroom, we would leading up to the 2016 draft, we called it the year of the quarterback. And after year 1, this past offseason, we called it the year of Mitch. Every single move, just like with you guys this offseason coming up, every single move that the Bills organization makes has to be with Josh Allen in mind. It doesn't matter if it's a guy that you're bringing on defense. How is this going to make Josh better? That's got to be your sole focus. He's got to be the face of your franchise, and every friggin' move that you guys make has to be centered around him and give him every chance to fall flat on his face or to take you guys back to the playoffs.
No, you're spot on. And I think that, like I said, that middling it and trying to hedge your bets only assures failure and only makes sure that you don't give them the weapons to succeed. All right. Well, now that we've kind of gone through the matchups on both sides, a little bit of what to be aware of and what to watch out for, let's put everybody on the spot and try to get a prediction here from each of the three of us. I'll kick things off for us. I actually think last week's game for both teams is very indicative of what we're going to see again. I think that the Bears and the Jets had a slow, low-scoring game that eventually the talent gap kind of let them stretch away. Most people probably saw the Bills for the first time on Monday Night Football. That I can't imagine I think there's a requirement you have to be in the red zone to be on the red zone channel. I'm not sure how that works. So a lot of people haven't watched a lot of the Bills play, but they saw the tough defense. We have a legitimate playoff caliber defense that held the Patriots in check and kept that game competitive into the fourth quarter. So my prediction is going to be something very similar. I think that we see a field goal battle early on. I think we hold the Bears out of the end zone for the first 3 quarters. Maybe we go into the fourth quarter 9-6, and then we eventually see a touchdown. The talent gap does show itself, and that we probably see like a 16-6 kind of game, and that it's going to probably not be the greatest thing for the fans to watch, but at least will be entertaining and within a competitive game for the majority of it. Shane, what do you see?
Yeah, I do. I think most of the fans that follow me on Twitter expect, like I told you guys, are expecting Chicago to go in there and essentially have Buffalo lie down and just take it. And it's not going to be that way. I'm in northern New York, so I see Buffalo all the time. I have friends and family that are Buffalo Bills fans, but I see a slugfest, and I see 17-13 Chicago. I'm just hoping, and if there's any Bears Barroom fans out there listening to this interview, I'm hoping it doesn't come down to a field goal, because I have zero faith in Cody Parkey, our field goal kicker.
I'll take that one. We got house money. We're good.
Yeah,
I'll
we
take
got you there.
If we get in a field goal kicking battle, I actually think we got a shot.
Yeah. So it's like you said, it's Chicago has Mitch has been pretty good on the scripted plays the first 15, and he seems to fall back a little bit, but he's really picked it up in the second half of all the games. So I don't think it's going to be anything like you saw versus Tampa when he went out there and tossed 6 touchdowns and they put up 48, obviously. But I say 17-13 Chicago in a game that's a lot closer than I think a lot of Bears fans are going to be expecting anyway.
Aaron, what do you see?
Yeah, so I do. Being the optimist Bills fan that I always am, I do see there's a way to beat this Bears team, and it obviously is the defense getting Mitch to turn the ball over. There is a way to do that, and this defense has done a really good job, whether it's interceptions or stripping the ball. Belichick brought it up last week that they had to really focus on ball security. So I think there's a way to do it for the Bills fans, but I think it's a really tall task because you have an offense that just can't even get into the red zone, like Greg alluded to. They're struggling to put up points. If a team can score over 14 points against this team right now, they just can't win. It's almost impossible. So my final score prediction, if I had to pick one, I'm thinking something like 22-6. And I think the Bears just kind of pull away at the end. I think that they're going to, force these young linebackers, this young linebacking core that we have. They're going to stress that with Tariq Cohen and try to get Edmonds moving and then get Cohen out on the outside, kind of like they did last week, and make some big plays. If you guys can make a few big plays, I think you can sniff out the end zone a few times.
Yeah, one thing that I think that you were talking about, what should you expect, is a lot of people don't talk about it, but Mitch has run for 15 first downs over the last 4 games himself, and 10 of those have been over 10-yard runs. And he's a gifted athlete. He's a very good runner, and they started off the game. What do we hear all the time? RPO, RPO, RPO is, that's took Philadelphia all the way to the Super Bowl and Nick Foles, and that's going to be a big part. So, you can have these guys contained, but it's one thing that you're going to want to think about is don't forget about number 10 in the backfield, because he can definitely hurt you with his legs.
Bortles killed us, and the Bills lost the playoff game last year because Bortles' legs in the second half. And I saw it with Mitch too. And I think, isn't he leading the league from quarterbacks in rushing?
Yeah, I don't know if he's up there anyway. I think I think he's on pace for around 600 rushing yards.
Wow. And we saw Tom Brady run for first down. So the Bills obviously, I mean, it wasn't a pretty first down. So the Bills, you got to watch those guys that can skirt out of the pocket for sure.
All right, well, let's kind of tie a bow on things here. We'll go around a little bit, give the people a little bit of what they can expect to see from you and work that you're working on, where things are going. I'm going to take a moment here just to talk about cover1.net. Have a lot of exciting things going on there. Obviously, great coverage of the team. Eric Turner's video breakdowns are second to none. We already have people that I know I try to keep people in the moment and watching the games, but I realize some fans have already moved on to the offseason. So you have Russell and Christian putting up fantastic draft coverage, getting prepared for that. Obviously, we're going to come in a couple times a week with the podcast previewing and the post game on each week. We have the premium Slack channel, which is fantastic, and an opportunity to come in and have some intelligent dialogue to be able to get yourself out of some of the social media rat holes that are easy to fall into. So I welcome everyone to come and give that a shot. You can find me at Greg Thompsett, GregTompsett on Twitter. Love to follow back Bills fans. Have a good time, and hopefully have a good time with some Bears fans this week. Shayne, give us a little idea what you got in the oven and where we can find you.
Yeah, just if everybody could go out to Bears Barroom, and we have a whole cast of characters there. We have a lot of fun on Monday nights. We have a live show that you can catch on Mixler. It's Bears Hour Live. It's a breakdown with Draft Dr. Phil Atoshin, talking about the game the day before or night before. Wednesday mornings, our Bears 100 Proof show comes out that I'm a part of with Draft Dr. Phil again and Aldo Gandia. It's a little bit of mixture of bar room talk, football, and music. We have a lot of fun there. Phil usually puts out a song or two that he writes and produces, and we have a lot of fun with that. Drops on Wednesday mornings. Thursdays, we have a social show called Let's Talk It Out. It's with Trey Busy. It's for people that have some social anxiety disorders or just any issues, talking about teen suicide. We'd like to just have something out there for people to give them a voice. Just, anybody. Sometimes you don't need to tell people what to do. Sometimes you just need to have an open ear and listen. And it's really taken off. It's been a great show. John Buffone show is on Wednesday nights. It's Buffone 55. That's former Chicago Bear Doug Buffone. It's his nephew. We call it the fastest Chicago Bears podcast in the world. It's usually about a half an hour, and John Buffone is full of energy and puts a lot of content out there. And his co-host Bears Girl. And Friday mornings is Chicago legend Mike North, the Mike North Advantage. I told you guys, if you like to bet the lines, this is the guy that you're gonna wanna get a hold of and follow, because he's been on fire and he's been making a lot of people a lot of money. And I'm not just saying that because he's part of Bears Barroom. He's a self-made millionaire, and Chicago. He's the Howard Stern of Chicago sports talk. And like I said, he's made a lot of people a lot of money, and the guy knows what he's doing. So you give at Bears Barroom a follow, and me a follow at Wazram. You go over to Bears Barroom. We just released our swag shop where you can buy some Scullies and hoodies. And I don't know if we have a Diddy shirt out yet, Aaron. Maybe we can get you one.
No, thanks.
So, but no, we have a lot of fun over there. So we'd appreciate the follow backs, and follow you guys along too at Cover One and everything that you're doing. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Aaron,
you guys,
besides changing diapers, where can the people find you?
That's all I'm doing, actually, is Diaper City over here. No, you can find me at Aaron Quinn 716. If I have to spell it for you, you probably shouldn't be following me anyway. I just got to say, speaking of Chicago, my Bulls just lost again.
Yeah.
I just got the notification.
Shocker.
Big shocker there.
I'm a Bulls fan too. Yeah.
Breaking news: Bulls are not good.
At least they didn't give up 92 at halftime.
Yeah. But no, you can find me over there. I'm always engaging with the fans, as Greg knows, and you can find me over on the Slack channel that Greg mentioned. I'm in there all the time. I won't be in there this weekend during the game because I am going to the game with my brother Diddy, who's at the bar room. And I can't stress enough, even if you're not a Bears fan, that Barroom group is a great group to follow, and Draft Dr. Phil does a good job with the draft stuff too. So if you like what the stuff that Cover One does, that's also an additional good follow for Bills fans that are looking kind of in that direction. And because the Bears are a couple years ahead of where we want to be, they're drafting in the, like I said, this last year, their draft was a lot of my wish list. So the guys that you guys are covering are guys that I want to. So definitely a good follow. And I'll be here with you, Greg, not after the post game this weekend, but I'll be back soon.
No, we'll be waiting, and hopefully, I guess for your sake, I hope the Bills can pull an upset. So, I would hate to go and be side by side with my own brother and be able to have to worry about seeing his joy walking out amongst all the Bills fans. So, hopefully, for your sake, we see something exciting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Well, thanks again, Shayne. We appreciate the time. It was a great talk tonight. And hopefully for all of our sake, at least we have an entertaining game. I hope that we see something exciting, keep us all engaged, and best of luck the rest of the season.
Hey, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. We'll talk to you after the game.